Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to our Meet a Member interview today. My name is Luke Bader. I'm Director of Membership and Programs at the FAIR Institute. And I have longtime FAIR member Luis Enriquez with me here today to talk a little bit about his personal journey with FAIR. Luis is quite busy in his life, so let me go through some of his titles and before I hand it over to you, Luis, to dive a little bit deeper there. But you are a professor at two universities, one in France and one in Ecuador. And recently, you have become the general director of data security for the Data Protection Office in Ecuador. So that's where you're based, and that's where we're talking to you today. So, would love to hear a little bit more about your background, what has led you to this point, and if you could include in there sort of when you first heard about FAIR and the FAIR Institute and how you chose to get involved.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really happy to be at this space. And yes, about my journey, um, I'm a lawyer. That's my first career. And then I studied algorithm composition. And from there, I went to study computer security. I'm talking about 20, 25 years ago, of course, at college. And I was really interested on ethical hacking. And then I worked quite a few years in digital forensics as examiner.
Mhm.
Then I became more interested about teaching. So I did a PhD, of course, master, PhD, all these academical things. But I did it just, I would say, while I was training myself into risk assessment. So I just realized that risk assessment was something really interesting. It was the base of decision making. So my journey with first started because I was researching about privacy quantification. That was my first big research, I would say, that linked me to FAIR. And I got into FAIR in 2020. 2020, I got into FAIR. I liked the model. And I would say like somehow empirically, I just trained myself with the book of Jack Jones
Mhm.
and Freud and Jones, I think. And I have it here actually. It's signed by Jack Jones. And then I just joined. I contacted you by Sophia, I think, in 2021.
Yep.
And then I became a really stable member. I paid the membership. I was really happy to join. And I did the certification
Yep.
the same year. Then I went to a couple of conferences of
Yep.
FAIR. And yeah, actually, I would say I'm kind of an outsider because my main issue here is risk-based compliance. So
Right.
I'm more interested about privacy and artificial intelligence today, but more about compliance, trying to measure the impact on the data subjects or in the users, in the case of artificial intelligence.
Right.
So my journey, I had this cybersecurity background, but I guess I just mixed it with my legal background. That's
Yeah.
why I'm doing this I'll say this task. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And I should have mentioned at the top of the interview that you were a presenter at the 2023 Fair Conference, and you are you've written a blog for the Fair Institute, a couple of blogs actually, and they're linked above this video in the blog, the body of the blog here in the summary. So for folks who are interested in more of Luis's information on specifically around privacy, you've written and presented a couple of times there. So talk to us, Luis, a little bit about how you see quantification or what you see the benefits are for quantification in the privacy and the data space. What are some of the benefits of bringing FAIR and bringing quantification into that?
Yeah, I would say it's just like an extension to cybersecurity assessment. That's my conviction.
Hmm.
Because any information security risk or cybersecurity risk is indeed data protection risk. Talk about Europe, privacy risk. If we talk about US, you prefer using privacy as
Right.
terminology. And it's very interesting because I need to find out how to work in a holistic way with both worlds. As I considered it an extension, I got to FAIR, and I really like the concept of secondary losses. And
Mm.
honestly, that hooked me up. And yes, but then I was thinking, okay, but what about trying to just model, what could be the loss due to an administrative fine by the Data Protection Authority, let's say in Europe. So it's how I say, okay, this is very useful, but perhaps we can just get some kind of instances of FAIR. And that's what I'm presenting in the blog, actually. It's
Mhm.
about how I just found out that the ontology, the FAIR ontology is just very valuable because uh, we're not I never try to change it because I think that's the real value of everything, because Monte Carlo analysis, you can do it. I mean, I do it also in my notebooks in Python. You can do Monte Carlo out of there, and also the distribution. You have this pair, pair distribution. That's very informative. But I think the real value is ontology, and I started using cybersecurity. But then when I say, okay, we'll talk about the impact and the magnitude of the impact in our own assets as a company. But what about the rights of the people, the fundamental rights of people? And that's when I start thinking, okay, we have two perspectives. Firstly, as an extension, because I might get a loss due to administrative fines and other judgments, but I needed to calibrate it by itself. That's it. No, just I was really worried about just using the frequency, the secondary frequency of the secondary loss, and but these numbers just came from out of nowhere. So I just researched a lot during the last 10 years. I just found out that the state of the art was really, really superficial here. The
Mhm.
privacy impact assessments were just like checking lists. Nobody
Mhm.
was actually taking serious how to put values there. It was more like the rule of thumb. And that's why I say, okay, we need to change this somehow. And FAIR was definitely, it boosts my research. And I could, this is approach as extension, doing our own FAIR ontology, just changing some definitions in order to actually get a better calibration just of my risk of, let's say, GDPR compliance.
Mhm.
And then the biggest challenge has been to try to estimate the impact, the magnitude of the impact on the data subjects. And this was really challenging because, of course, it was a journey of using statistics, using conformal prediction, a lot of other tools to estimate the different vulnerabilities of groups of data subjects. I don't know if you follow me. This is important because you have people that is just will suffer a higher impact due to a data breach. So I focus data breaches, and I use the FAIR model also to calibrate that in data protection impact assessments. Firstly, commercially, and now as a data protection authority, actually I'm promoting FAIR first, the original FAIR, but also this idea of try to model these other issues that are somehow beyond cybersecurity. And the results are quite good. I would say I've been teaching this for already 4 years almost. And students are really, really like FAIR. They find it really useful. I think it really goes ahead, this concept of modeling, risk scenarios, what we used to use before other methodologies as a Marguerite, let's say, because it comes from before somehow. It's just like, I think it's just next step of evolution, maybe I would say.
Right.
And this idea of modeling is really powerful. And when you put that in other kind of risks, especially related to cybersecurity, but at the other side, model the impact of a data breach on data subjects, it becomes really promising. And of course, research keeps going on. I wouldn't say that this is the last word. I would rather prefer a community that can really help me to shape this in the future, of course.
Absolutely. And so what are some of the the ways in which you communicate through your research and through your teaching? What are some of the ways that you um, or like tips and tricks to communicate this benefit to folks who are wanting to deploy this for data protection at their organizations? Because a lot of organizations still are in the early stages, the infancy stages of a full quantitative risk management program that's going to be doing this type of data protection work. So, what do you say to those people who are trying to get buy-in from executive leadership, trying to start a program? How are you? What are some tips and tricks that you can suggest that would be helpful in getting them started?
Yes, interesting because I'm just publishing this month in December these guidelines for the whole country about risk management,
Right.
but focus on data protection. And as part of that comes the program, how to actually have a risk-based compliance program. So the first thing actually we're working on with my team is using FAIR, but uh, I would say it's a tool, it's a mechanism for something else because you need to change this concept of compliance. All paper-based compliance does not work when you have legislation that is risk-based. And I mean, when GDPR or the AI regulation are based on risk management. That's actually, you cannot deny that it works that way. It's the only way because I don't want to get into legal, but it's a different kind of administrative law somehow because they tell you what you're supposed to do, your objectives, but they don't tell you how to arrive to compliance. So this is what we call risk-based compliance. And it's different because it's not about just putting, the paper. I say, okay, in this paper, okay, I did my risk management. Here I comply to the ISO 27001 or
Right.
27701. No, it's about how you're actually protecting the rights and freedoms of people, of data subjects. So what I'm interested about as regulator is, okay, I want to see which methodologies, which risk models are you using to that. Otherwise, it's too late. When the
Right.
data breach has occurred, damage is there, damage for the natural persons, for the people, and damage for the organization because you have fines and you loss of reputation and everything. So
Right.
in order to do that, changing the concept, I have to say that it helped me a lot, Jack Jones and Douglas Hobart concepts that they really already did that this years ago, lots of years ago. And it's just a change of mindset. It's
Right.
just a whole change of mindset to say, okay, I need to comply to regulation, but it's about what I'm using for managing risk. It's not just about how I present my reports. And this is really challenging, I have to say, that compliance programs should focus on these concepts. Let's say in Jack Chong's book, what is actually forecasting and what's precision? Just very basics that people don't implement in their own compliance programs.
Right.
And the benefit is great, I have to say. It's just that's why I keep saying that it's an extension to the original FAIR model because it's just getting into the other side, getting into just purely compliance, risk-based compliance.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point there of the benefits of this because of course we talk about the numbers and being able to make better business decisions, but what is all of that for, right? Why do we translate risk into dollars and cents? Why do we want to make better business decisions and protect ourselves more easily and stronger? Because it helps the customers or the organization, helps individual people keep their data secure and such. So that's a
Mhm.
great point and a great reminder to everybody at the Fair Institute for sure. Final question here as we look to wrap up our interview. Want to just see what your thoughts are around the rest of the industry. So quantification is a key part of risk management. What are some of the other issues that you see that are facing the larger industry as a whole?
Talking more about my industry, that I would say is an
Yeah,
extension of cybersecurity.
sure.
It's really a change of mindset, as I already say.
Yep.
But the issue is that privacy and cybersecurity just evolve differently historically. So
Yeah.
we also have this conception that there's this vision that privacy is just for lawyers and cybersecurity for engineers. uh, uh, Everything has changed, and the firm model just has this holistic view of everything together that I
Right.
like. So the thing is, there's a myth and privacy that you cannot measure privacy. And a lot of authors, really respected authors, say you cannot measure rights and freedoms of people. But then I have another thing that's my theory of personal data failure risk, because the judges and administrative authorities would need to measure in the end anyway by their enforcing powers. So
Mhm.
what is this? The problem is about what decision making. How do I get to a decision if you're guilty, not guilty? And what is the amount of your fine? And that is actually the huge point. So I guess these methods work in two things here, First, changing this mindset that you cannot measure privacy because you can do it. Just think natural person, I would say people, when they have a data breach, they also have a material impact. It's
Right.
not just organization. They lose their jobs. If you have a confidentiality data breach, they might lose, to think about sensitive data, such as medical data. They will lose opportunities for education. They will have problems with insurance companies. There's a material impact also in people. So
Right.
that's my research, trying to find out how to measure that. So it's quite challenging, look, because um, what I'm using a lot of statistics basically trying to get statistics and calibrating vulnerability of the data subjects. It was interesting because I could tell you in some, let's say in a Trojan malware risk scenario, that's confidentiality mainly, right? So there you have, of course, um, impact that might have different magnitudes on different people. But
Right.
if you can consider that some people is especially sensitive to this Trojan, to this data breach due a Trojan, you say, okay, there might be 80% vulnerable difference to average people that might be 20% vulnerable. So it's a lot about statistics to put the values in, but then you need a model. And I say the value of R is huge, at least for my research until now, because I cannot make a better anthology, honestly. That's why I try, and I go back here and I just change some definitions. So that's basically talking about this industry. We need definitely to change the mindset, and we need to think that actually what we're protecting might even have a higher value than just assets from a company. It's about the lives of people. It's about your right to freedom. It's about that data breach can really mess up with your life. So
Yeah.
that's the objective. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And appreciate you being so emphatic about this and setting this reminder up because it's so true that it is just more than numbers and dollars. It's real people and it's really affecting individuals, which is wonderful. So, folks, again, I just want to reiterate that Luis has done presentations for us in the past. He's written blog posts for us. They're going to be linked in the body of this blog summary. Feel free to read more on them if you want to read more about his work. Luis, before I let you go, just one fun question here. When you're not working in your job and you're not teaching, which I'm sure takes up a lot of your time, what do you like to do for fun outside of work?
I'm a guitar player, actually.
Oh,
I used to be
wonderful.
I used to be a rock star in my 20s, but I
Oh,
still
cool.
play a lot of music. Yes, that's what I do.
What kind of music?
Well, I play rock bands, cumbia bands, jazz bands.
Oh,
Also,
cool.
I compose a lot. I used to do AI gen in the early 2000s. So I got also composition, international composition prizes, doing just basically I would say early machine learning, stuff.
Yeah.
And yes, that's my hobby, I would say. But actually, I have money with that. So actually, it's not just a hobby, but it's not my first job, of course.
It's a little side job. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here today with us and for sharing your expertise and really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for tuning in and listening.
Thank you, Luke. I'm really happy. I'm really happy to be a member of Prayer Institute. This year, I missed the conference, unfortunately, due to other occupations. But definitely this year, I'll try to be there again in Washington.
We'll
Thank you.
get you back there. All right. Sounds great, Luis. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you, Luke.